Big question. Hey, everybody, welcome to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 531, and today is the 29th of January, 2025. And if you don't know what that means, it means we are 2 days away from enrollment closing for phase one of the directory hybrid agency training. This is your last chance to get in for several months. Bradley is going to be beginning the phase one training of the 12-week program here shortly. So we want to make sure you are aware of it. You've got 2 more days to hop in before midnight on Friday. And besides saying hi to the guys, answering your questions today, we're going to answer a few questions as well that we've had over the past few days about DHA. Anything from time requirements, are there extra fees involved? Tons of questions we've had, and good questions. We want to answer them. So we're going to take a few minutes and do that now. But first, as I said, want to say hi to the guys real quick, and then we'll jump into it. So, Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Happy to be here today, and yeah, super excited like everyone else about the DHA launch that is coming up. So yeah,
Nice, outstanding. Bradley, how about you? How you doing? Are you staying warm?
Yeah, it's 55 degrees here today on top of this
Nice.
mountain, which is rare, but it's going to actually be warm for the next week. And so it's a much needed break in the shit weather that I've been dealing with.
Yeah, man,
So,
you've had a tough winter so far.
yeah, but it's nuts because it's apparently, stink bugs apparently hibernate and it gets cold. And then when it gets warm again, they just come out of their hibernation, right? They just come alive again. And so I thought, we had a week of sub 20-degree weather here. And I thought for sure that would have killed all those sons of bitches. Wrong. Like
Yeah,
it's got above 50 degrees and like they started coming out again. And I must have sucked 15 sink bugs up in a shop vac today. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
it's irritating as hell. In the middle of the goddamn winter, I'm dealing with those stupid bugs, but it is what it is. So glad to be here. Glad the weather's warmer.
fair enough. Well, I'm going to keep everything else to a minimum. I wanted to jump into the DHA stuff today. Like I told everyone just a minute ago, we got questions. So we had kind of compiled those. Bradley, I think, has got a list of them in front of him. So we're just going to let them kind of roll through there. If you didn't watch the videos we sent out over the past couple of weeks, a lot of that stuff is answered in there, and that's part of why we put those together, is to not only, if you don't join DHA, you still have a really good source of information there, but it also answers your questions. But we get it. Maybe you skipped ahead. Maybe you only watched part of it. So we want to make sure that everyone gets the answers to these. So Bradley, I'll just let you kind of take it away.
All right, cool. Well, I'll grab the screen just so I can pop this list of questions up onto the screen. It'll make it a little bit better. Stand by while I do that. And then I'll come back and grab the full screen later. All right, so you guys should be seeing just Zoom, or excuse me, just Slack. Is that correct?
yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we had some frequently asked questions to come in, and these were questions that were answered in video three, most of them anyways, but we'll go ahead and cover each one of these now, which is this like rank and rent? Yes, very similar to it. When I talk about building local lead generation assets as part of the directory hybrid agency, that's part of the reason it's called a hybrid agency, is because we do a combination of lead gen and traditional retainer based services. And so part of the process, which again, this is fully described in the three videos, guys, that's in that whole launch sequence. Okay. But the part of the process is to identify low competition areas for whatever industry it is that you've selected, and then go out and build organic only lead gen assets first, which would just be something on one of your own branded domains that you own and control. You build a specific type of a site that's structured in a specific type of a way. Yeah, I'll give you clone files for all of this so that you can just go in and modify them for yourself. But then you build these sites and you find a lot of low competition areas that you build these sites in, and you put them into a rank tracker and just let them go. There's a few things that you can do to push them along a little bit, but it's all about trying to identify low competition areas first to build lead generation assets in that then you can use as a sales tool, right? You can pitch your marketing services or lead generation services or both to prospects or company owners in the area that you have lead generation assets that are already, they don't have to be 100% ranked. They only have to be partially ranked for you to be able to use that as a sales tool to point to on a sales presentation, on a pitch call, where you're basically either pitching lead generation services or you're pitching traditional retainer based services or a combination of both. That's why it's called a hybrid agency. The directory part of the directory hybrid agency is the initial outreach mechanism. That's how you initiate the conversation, is through the directory. And so is it like rank and rent? Yes, it can be, because you can rent the sites. Like, for example, we rent out sites for $99 a month. That's what we rent them at if we're doing rank and rent. We can also do pay per lead. So it's pay per call or pay per form submission, or just pay per lead in general, which is one or both. Or we can do revenue share model. And a lot of tree guys that I have worked with over a period of time, and I've established a long working relationship with, a good working relationship with, where there's trust, etc., then I will do revenue share or offer revenue share model with them. And that is where I get a percentage of any jobs that they close, a percentage of the contract price of that job, which is 10% in the tree service industry. And that's huge. That's my favorite way to monetize these assets. But in any case, even if you don't do it as a rank and rent, pay per lead, or revenue share model, well, you've got lead generation assets that you can point to as a sales tool that then you can even use as kind of a value add-on, right? It's like a deal sweetener, so to speak. If you are pitching your services, retainer-based services, say, look, I've already got a website that's ranking in your local market for some of the products and services that you provide. And it's outranking you in many cases. And therefore, I can do this for you. And I'll tell you what, if you sign up with my services today to work on building your brand, your presence, in Google search, then I will assign any of these leads from this site directly to you. So exclusivity of these leads. So is it rank and rent? It can be. It can be pay per lead. It can be revenue share model, and it can also be retainer-based services. It's a combination of all of the above. So it's whatever you have to structure the deal in order to close the sale. That's what gives you options to do so at the same time while building up assets that you own and control. Okay, which is about I developed that into my own agency to overcome the attrition that I see and experience with tree service contractors on an annual basis, because it's a very seasonal type of an industry. And so I have a lot of attrition in the winter time. And so I've learned over the last few years ways to kind of, mitigate some of that, right? So avoid some of that attrition. And that is by developing assets that I own and control that I use as part of the sales process, is so that I can retain those assets even if the client leaves. But during the time that they are assigned to a particular client, I'm using a portion of their budget on a monthly basis to build links, etc., branded assets, so supporting assets, etc., for my own branded websites, my own assets, my own digital real estate in the areas that I've got lead generation assets. So that's, again, why it's called a directory hybrid agency. What types of sites are we building? Where you can use WordPress or high level. I recommend high level, but I've got templates for both. What niches work best? Service area businesses. Pretty much any sort of service area business works best. Part of that is because we are building lead generation assets, and it's hard to create lead generation assets for storefront businesses if you don't have an actual storefront. So I recommend any sort of lead service area business is perfect for this type of anything that has steady demand or increasing demand over in time. Nothing with declining demand. Okay, and you can check that with Google Trends. We teach all of this. How much should I budget for monthly costs? About $200. How much time do I need each week? 1.5 to 2 hours per day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So I say 8 to 10 hours per week. Okay, 8 to 10 hours per week is all that is required. Certainly, if you have more time and you invest more time, you'll get higher returns. Do I need any other training, or is this everything? Nope, this is 100% of everything. Everything that you need to be successful with your own directory hybrid agency lead generation system is built into this program. 100% of it. Can I use my own high level account? Yes, you can. You certainly can. I'll give you the snapshots, but just remember, and I can provide support on the office hours calls for like how to fix things in your high level account, but it's your high level account. So it's going to be up to you to maintain the sub accounts, not us. Part of the benefit of using our accounts is we have some custom integrations, and we also do the deployment of LLG sub accounts or local lead generation sub accounts for the clients. And so it takes some of the management off of your plate. And we also do it for a little bit of a less cost because we charge for basically an agency level account, but we're managing it for you at $197 a month versus $297 a month if you go get a high level account on your own, an agency account. But there's certainly some options that you don't have available through our accounts that you would through your own agency account. So if you want to use your own agency account, by all means, you certainly can. We'll give you the snapshots. Just be aware that I could provide support on support calls, but it's going to be up to you to manage and maintain the sub accounts in your agency account. Okay, just to be clear. what happens after the 12 weeks is up? You can continue to stay in the mastermind, the Semantic Mastery Mastermind, or you can cancel, or you can decide to join the phase 2 program, because only graduates of phase 1 can go into phase 2, and that is the sales and fulfillment phase, which is a 6-week program. We haven't launched the first one of that yet. We will be launching that about the end of February for the first group, which is only for graduates of phase 1 so far, which we've got 2 groups that have been through that so far. So this is group 3 for phase 1 that we're launching right now. It's for group 3. And so group 3 won't even be offered phase 2 until after the 12 weeks is up. And then lastly, do I also need to be in the mastermind? Yes, but fortunately, as part of your tuition, you're automatically enrolled in the mastermind for the 3 months. Or then it's so the 3 months, the 12-week program, you are already included in the mastermind. It is part of the tuition, okay? Because that is where our discussion group is for this, for any members in phase 1. It's in our circle community. You get access to the rest of the circle community. You also have access to everything that the mastermind members get while you're in the program. And then at the end of the 12-week program, you have the option to continue in the mastermind or quit. It's entirely up to you. Okay. Hopefully that answers all those questions. Anything else?
Sorry, just checking my notes. Nope, we are good to go. So let's go ahead and jump into today's questions.
Okay, good, because we got a lot of them.
Cool. Well, I'll just say while you're doing that, I put the link on the page, but if you're watching this, can't see it, whatever it is, find out more or go ahead and get signed up before Friday for DHA. It's dha.semanticmastery.com.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, the training actually starts on Monday, February 17th. On Monday, February 10th, we're going to send out for everybody that's been accepted into the program and has checked out. We're going to be sending out the full details, the training schedule, and all of that. It goes out on Monday, February 10th, and the official start date is Monday, February 17th. So the part for joining the program to enroll ends on the 31st, Friday the 31st. So that's in a couple of days, guys. So just keep that in mind. Somebody reached out to me earlier and said, well, the training starts on the 31st and I can't even book my onboarding call with you until next week. Well, no, the training doesn't start on the 31st. The training starts on the 17th. The cart closes on the 31st. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to grab the screen and we're going to get into it. I got a lot of questions to get through. So let's do it. Okay, you guys should be seeing my screen.
Yep. Got your
Coming
full
up, all right?
screen.
Okay, good. All right, try this again. All right, we're going to start with Ben. Ben says, last week on Hump Day Hangouts, you mentioned that you transitioned from creating custom videos to more universal ones. You also said you now use screenshots to show a business service area versus where they are actually ranking. How has that approach worked for you compared to universal videos? Can you share an example of the sequence you use? Yes. And so, guys, we're going to spend a few minutes on this, and I hope everybody's okay with that. But this is a great question. And this also will demonstrate to everybody on the call now and anybody that watches the replay what the DHA process, or part of it, is anyways, at least for the after the initial outreach is sent out from the cold email sequence, which is where you contact business owners for whatever industry you've selected in a particular area. You contact them with cold email, and all you're doing is asking them to confirm their company's contact information for their free listing on whatever your directory is. I don't know if that was a goddamn stink bug or what. They're all over the place in here. Anyway, so it's just asking them to confirm their company's contact information for the free directory listing on your whatever, and I used to say treecarehq.com. When they reply back, they're either going to correct the information, say, no, there's something inaccurate, like phone number needs updated, or that's not my website. And purposefully, we leave the website URL out. It says website, but it's blank. Even if we have it, we leave it out intentionally in our cold email because we want them to reply back and say, all that information is correct, but it's missing my website. Here's my website. In any case, we have a 5-day sequence that goes out where so every other day we send an email for 5 days, and it can go longer if you want, where basically we're asking them to confirm their information. And we remind them every couple of days, hey, just reply back. Let us know, is this correct? And if not, please send us any corrections. And we get quite a high response rate from that, okay? But once somebody comes into our funnel, our pipeline, which, by the way, when they reply to that cold email sequence, which the cold email sequence is done through Instantly. We manage our cold emails campaigns through Instantly. But there's a webhook that pushes that contact from Instantly when there's a positive reply into the high-level account, so the directory CRM account, which is your agency, basically your agency account where you're going to be managing contacts for your directory DHA or directory agency, etc. Anyway, long story short, once the contact comes into there, then there's an automation that when the contact replies, and so that when the webhook is pushes that contact into high level, then there's an automation that waits a few minutes, and then it sends them an email that says, and an SMS that asks them to confirm, hey, thank you. Well, first it acknowledges that they replied, right? That they replied to the email sequence. It says, hey, thanks for confirming your information or whatever. We're going to optimize your directory listing and send it to you for review within the next 2 business days or whatever it is, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it says in the sequence. Okay, which is an automation. So right after they reply via email, about a minute and a half later, the contact gets a email and a confirmation acknowledging that we received their reply to our email. Okay, and then about 7 minutes later, it sends out an SMS message to that contact to say, by the way, while we're optimizing or publishing your directory listing, how far out do you go out? Do you go out for jobs? In other words, how far out is your service area radius? But we title it or say it a couple different ways. And here, I'm just going to demonstrate this for you guys. I've got one open of a contact that just went through this sequence earlier this week, and I just had a booked sales call or booked call with him yesterday afternoon. It was this gentleman here, right here. There's a booked sales call that I had with that guy right there. So I'm just going to show you the sequence. So this is when he replied to the email, the cold email sequence that's sent through instantly. This is the reply I got, right? DC cutting is new listing on Tree Carriage needs one thing from you to finish it. So essentially, this is the email that gets sent out after the acknowledgement of the first email goes out to acknowledge that the contact that he replied to the initial outreach. It says, DC tree cutting and land service will have a full page with logo, pics, maps, etc., and a lot more than a measly one-liner. And so basically, it's asking for telling them what they're going to get and everything else. And then it was asking that question is where do they go? How far do they go to get jobs? So what is basically their service area? Okay, so this is him replying. He's saying, hi, Harry, because Harry was a partner of mine initially, but I've actually reworked all this stuff now to where it comes from me instead of from Harry. But anyways, point saying, he replied back and said 60 to 75 miles. Now, that's huge, okay? That's a huge area. But in any case, he replied back. So then once he replies back with that, then that gives us the ability to create the image that I'm going to show to you guys in just a moment. And this gets back to the question that Ben was asking, which is instead of us doing the whole video sequence now, or the video, which was a custom video originally, then I went to a universal video, and that's still available on my site. Let me just give you a quick example of that. Why am I not logged in? I must not be logged into it. Give me 1 second, guys. I want to show you an example of the universal video, but I found we don't need to use that anymore. It's it's treecarehq.com, you idiot. I'm going to show you guys an example of the universal welcome video that we were sending people to, but it's not just so you guys have an example of it. But I found this other option this other method is just much more efficient. So let me just go to that, show you this really quickly, and then I'll jump back to what I was saying. Yeah, so you go to treecarehq.com/welcome. You can see an example. This is an older video that was created to explain. This is what I call universal welcome video, which is where originally in our kind of directory sequence, when the contact would reply, we would send to the initial outreach. We would send an acknowledgement, but then we would say, we're going to send you the listing for review in 2 or 3 days, whatever it was. And then the assistant, my virtual assistant, would go into that manages the lead processing, would go into the opportunity pipeline, and it would because it was in that field, and then they would go optimize the listing, and then when they were done with it, they would move it into the next column or stage in the pipeline, which would then send out the email that would tell them, hey, your directory listing is ready for review. Here's the link. Go, please review it. Let us know if you need any changes. And by the way, here is what we discovered while optimizing your listing. And then that's where the video would go, which was originally was a custom video. I would go out and literally spend 15 minutes recording a video for every single contact. And it worked. It worked really well, but it was also a lot of wasted effort because I had to spend an hour and a half. I'd spend about 90 minutes per day, Monday through Friday, where I would usually record anywhere between 4 to 6 videos per day. And that's how I would do. That's how I initially started building this whole process up, guys, was doing a custom video for that specific contact, excuse me. But only about 3 out of every 10 videos that I sent out even got watched, right? And so that was a lot of wasted effort. And so eventually I ended up switching it to doing a universal video where basically something down there that's broken, so I got to fix that. Anyways, I don't use this page anymore anyway, but then what I did was I started sending a custom GIF image where instead of creating a new video for every client, then what we would do is create a custom image of GIF so that it looked like a video that we would embed into the email that we would send to them along with a directory listing that would show their directory listing with a play button in the GIF image. And then so that it would encourage them to click on and that from the delivery email, right? So the listing delivery email would say, here's your delivery, or excuse me, here's your directory listing. Go review it. Let us know if you need any changes. But we identified some problems while optimizing your listing, and we wanted to address that with you. So here, please go check out this video. And it would then, when they click it, it would take them to here where they would explain to them what we do with the directory listings, and then it would go into, by the way, in the email that I just sent you with your listing delivery or your directory delivery, your directory listing, whatever, there's also a link to a Bright Local or what we call as a local search grid report to show how your Google Business Profile is performing or not performing in Google search for your products and services in your area. And so in this universal video, I would explain what it was, like how to read the reports, what they were looking at, etc., and then direct them to go click on the link that then would take them to their Bright Local report that was already created for them during this process. But again, that was a very long process. And if you guys use any kind of local search grid tracking tools, you know that you pay for credits. So at some point, it started becoming cost prohibitive because I was spending a shit ton of money on local search grid credits for prospects that hadn't spent any money with me, right? And so it was spending a lot of money and a lot of time generating reports and having a team member go create all these reports, and it was cluttering up my Bright Local account with hundreds and hundreds of reports that never they never became contacts or clients. Does that make sense? So the solution then, which I owe this idea to Harry, former partner at TreeCare HQ, was to instead have kind of a more conversational sequence with SMS and email and phone if needed, with the contact between when they first reply to the directory listing cold outreach sequence until we deliver that, so that we have multiple communications with them until we deliver that listing for them to review. But then also now what we do is instead of delivering the listing, what we do is tell them that their listing is ready for review and that they need to jump on a call with us. Now, this gets back to the original question, and then I'll show it. And I think it's important for me to go through this so that you guys understand kind of the sequence and how it has evolved to where it is now, which is a much more efficient and scalable way to do the prospecting. Okay, because now we don't even record any videos at all. All we do is create still images of where they claimed. Remember, this guy just said that he replied and he said that we travel 60 to 75 miles from the location. Okay, so then once they reply back and we get that information, then we say, okay, thank you for sending your information in. We're going to get your listing optimized and we're going to send it to you for review. Okay, so then about 2 days later, once the VA has gone out and created, I'll show you the images, right? So this is an example of their directory listing, okay? And so before we deliver this to them, as the VA is optimizing, they go create this image. He told us 65 to 70 miles. So I don't know whether this is 65 or 70 miles, but in any case, the VA creates this image and uploads this to the directory listing. But at the same time, they also create another image. So, and back in here, you're going to see two things: the service territory radius map short link, which is this one here. If we go visit this link, that's just a short link that redirects to that image URL that I was just showing you here, right here. Okay. So that's in high level as a custom contact field, a custom field, excuse me. So it's a contact record so that it's tokenized where we can send out, it just pulls that data in whenever we need it to. All right. So then we have the service territory geogrid map short link. So we use LeadSnap for this, but LeadSnap, we can then create the local search grid image in the same shape as the image here. And if you see, it's the exact same size, right? You can see it kind of, just a little bit above Fayetteville from here. And if you see right there, it's just a little bit above Fayetteville. You can see Durham there, all that. So it's the exact same size. And so we add these two short links now to the contact record. And so here's the delivery sequence, guys. And we don't have to do videos anymore. You get it? It's all we do. We optimize the listing, and then there's notes that are added to the contact record by my assistants who are responsible for creating these listings. They add notes to these contact records to let us know, because I'm managing sales again now. Harry is no longer a partner of mine, so I'm taking over sales again for Tree Care HQ, which means I ought to start selling a lot of new clients in Tree Care HQ again. But when I go in to then have the sales conversation, which I don't have to have any conversation with them until they book the call now. Okay. But now when I book the call, I go in and I look at the contact record in high level, and I can see specifically what my assistants found when they were publishing the listing, so that I know what to pitch to them on the conversation. But please understand, I don't even have to pitch, because what we've done, guys, is I've started to develop rapport with the contact from the initial reply or response, from when they reply back to the cold email. We've communicated with them through multiple touches via email and SMS and phone call if needed, up until the directory, to just gather and collect the information from them that we use to create the directory listing. And then we tell them, we're going to deliver your directory listing for review, or prepare it for review in the next 2 to 3 days. And guess what? In 2 to 3 days, we then contact them again. So that we're showing them that we can meet our commitments, and we're delivering something of value, and we're not asking for anything in return. And then so here it is. As promised, for the listing for DC Tree Cutting and Land Service has been completed. We've also added a few things as a thank you. Can you take a few minutes to hop on a call with us at your convenience, so we can go over it with you, just to find any mistakes before it goes live for public viewing? Now, it's already live, but they don't need to know that. And I recorded the sales call from yesterday, and I even told the guy right up front, I said, look, it's already live, but nobody really knows about it yet. So just let you know, if you need any changes, we'll make those changes for you. So anyway, but here it is. It just says, look, book a call with us. Now, we've got some automations built in that the customer or the contact is going to do one of two things. They're either going to book the call, right? Because we send an email and an SMS that basically says the same thing. And that's a trigger link. And it says like, hey, go book a call with me. And so they're either going to book the call from that email and SMS, or they're going to reply back and say, well, why do I need a call? And if they reply back and ask a question instead of just booking the call, then it says, we identified a problem that is preventing you from getting, or while optimizing your listing, we identified a problem that is preventing you from getting jobs in the areas that you claimed you want to get jobs from. We would like to address that with you on the call. When is a good time? So it's a second ask for them to book the call, right? We answer their question. Why do I have to book a call for this delivery? Can't you just send it to me? We address it. By the way, it's the problem agitate solution framework, guys. We identify or introduce the problem. Then we want to agitate it. We're getting to the agitation point right now, okay? Because I say there's a problem. We'd like to review that, address that with you on the call. When's a good time? So now they're either going to book the call, or they're going to follow up with another question. Well, what is the problem? And if they follow up with what is the problem, then this is where and that's why we have these tokenized in the high-level contact record like this, because then the automation sends an SMS to the contact that says, well, here is where you said that you want to get work from, but here is where you're actually getting work from. Only the areas in green. We'd like to address this with you or present some solutions to how you can resolve this on the call. And so then they're going to book the call, or they're going to tell us to go shit in our hat. You know what I mean? Like, they're either going to ignore us, unsubscribe, or they're going to book the call. It's going to be one of those three things. And if they ignore us, then that's fine. They're just going to go back into another nurture sequence, because now they're already contact. We've already delivered something of value. But this works, and this works a hell of a lot more efficiently than either doing a universal video and having to create custom GIFs and all of that other kind of stuff. Now we don't even deliver the listing. And here's the other thing. We can add more value to the listing before we deliver it. So for example, one of the things that I use is rep videos, right? David Sprague's rep videos. And so I've got over 1,200 video credits in David Sprague's rep videos thing. And so we were, for a period of time, adding rep videos to every directory listing that we would add to the directory, which was only direct for contacts that replied back to our cold outreach sequence. But Cecilia, one of our mastermind members, who's amazing, she was actually one that said, well, why don't you just limit the doing rep videos for those that reply and book the call? So then it reduces the workload even more. But then on the call, now you've got something as additional of value that you've added to the directory listing. And my thought was, why not withhold that? That's why you don't see it here, by the way, because you don't see a video here. And on this is because I thought about her idea and I was like, you know what, that's great. We don't need to waste time, waste credits. I pay one of my VAs to produce a rep video. So it is a small expense for me. Instead of doing that for every contact that replies, only do it for those that book the call. But instead of doing it for everyone that books the call, why not use that as, again, a value add-on, a deal sweetener that I can use as another kind of excuse to reach out to them if they don't close after that first call, right? Because then I can go back and add a rep video to their directory listing as long as they have 1 5-star review, right? We can add a rep video to the directory listing, and then I can reach back out to them again, say, hey, listen, we saw that you aren't really doing a good job of promoting or you're not really promoting your 5-star reputation. So we thought we'd like to help you with that too. So here's an example of what we call a review commercial. We've added it to your directory listing free of charge. Check it out, right? Want to see how we can do this more consistently for you? Book a call with me, right? So again, there's a lot of things that can be done here, guys, but it's a very simple sequence. So all I did was send that sequence out and he booked a call. And then I went ahead and scheduled a call with him, and I had to call with him yesterday afternoon, and it was a great call. I didn't close him yet, but I don't have to close. And I tell people right up front, like when we got on the call, I said, listen, this call is so we can, number one, review your directory listing to make sure that everything here is accurate. So I asked him about, like, do you have an arborist on staff? Because if so, we should have arborist consulting right here. And he said, well, I do have an arborist that I can use when I need to, but he doesn't actually work. He's a contractor. And I don't really want to get arborist consulting jobs. So we left it out. But anyways, I tell him right up front, like, we're going to get on the call. We're going to talk about the directory listing, make sure everything is accurate. If there's any changes needed, you can tell them to me on the call. Then I'm going to present to you some issues that I found that are preventing you from getting jobs from the areas that you said you wanted to get jobs from. And then I'm going to present you with some solutions. If it makes sense for us to work together, great. If not, hey, no harm, no foul. It's just a conversation. And I tell them that right up front, guys, to alleviate any fears. How many of you guys have tried to do a sales pitch to a local business for marketing services, and they're defensive from the very start? And that's why I tell these, I remove any resistance right up front, because we've already delivered something of value. We've shown that we can meet our commitments by delivering things within timely manners the way that we told them that we were going to. We've built some rapport through that whole process. And now we're getting on a call to make sure that they're happy with their free thing. And then that's when and I tell them right up front, look, second part of this, we're going to review your listing. Then I'm going to show you some problems that I identified that are preventing you from getting work in the areas that you said you want to get work from. And then I'm going to present you with some solutions that we have that are low cost that can help you to resolve some of these issues. Does that sound fair? Would you like to continue this conversation? Always asking questions and nodding your head yes to get yeses out of them while you're on the call, whether they see you on a Zoom call or you're talking to them on the phone. It's sales 101, guys. You ask leading questions where you're going to get a yes answer, nod your head as you're asking them, and you'll get a yes. So now you've got permission to go through this sequence, this basically presentation, and it's just a conversation, guys. It's not really a sales pitch. And that's what we did. I had a 32-minute call with this guy just yesterday from this exact same sequence that I'm describing here. And he didn't close yet, but that's okay because I've built significant rapport with him, right? Goodwill with him. And so the door is wide open. And so that now, like I said, I can go back in. One of the problems that he addressed on the call yesterday was he's saying that it's like pulling teeth to get people to leave his reviews on their Google business profile. So I showed him the review system that we have built. And I showed him one of my clients that I just started applying the review system to about 6 weeks ago, who's seen a bigger jump in review counts in the last month than they have in the last year and a half. And that's because of my review system. And so the point is, now I can reach back out to this contact again, and I can add a rep video, David Sprague's rep video, so what I call a review commercial to this, and then reach out to him and said, hey, you remember when we had our call the other day and you were telling me how you're struggling to get reviews? Well, what are you doing to promote the existing reviews that you currently have? And that just starts the whole conversation over again, guys. Because look, this is what we did. We created this review commercial for you, put it on your directory listing. Here's the link. You can promote this on your own website and via your social media, etc. And look, we can do this for you consistently in addition to building more reviews for you, generating more reviews for you from your customers, those past and future customers. And so again, it just gets the conversation started again, guys. That's the hardest part about selling marketing services, in my opinion, to local businesses. Number one, starting the conversation. And then number two, getting them to stop being so goddamn defensive that you can actually convey to them how you can help their business, right? And so the whole process that I'm talking about here through the directory sequence is to alleviate that, to build rapport and build some trust and goodwill. And I don't even really ask for a sale. I just tell them, here's what we have, here's what we found that your business is suffering from, and here's what we have to help solve those problems. And that's it. Does it make sense for us to work together? Here's some examples of what I've done for others. If you'd like to continue working with us, here's the checkout links, or just reach back out to me and I'll send them to you. You see what I'm saying? And it's a very visual thing here, guys, and it's very easy to do, right? And this is all done now through automations, all of this whole sequence. I didn't even chat with this guy ever, not via direct email, SMS, or anything until he booked the appointment, right? So that's the whole point, guys, is getting all of that work done through this automated system so that all I have to do now is get onto the call. And when I get on the call, all I have to do is open up the contact record and pull open. Everything is listed right here, right? The directory listing URL is here. The screenshot images are here. The notes that my team took are over here, right? So any notes that I need to know about would be here. So I'm just pointing it out, saying it's a great system as far as being able to provide consistent leads, where before we built all of this automation and these additional points of contact and everything between the initial reply and the delivery email. Before that, there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of communication that had to be done manually, whether it was for me or somebody else on my team. But now we've automated just about all of it. And so now, of course, there's going to be times where the conversation throws the automations off, and then it's going to need a human to jump in, and that's fine. But that's significantly reduces the amount of manual effort that goes into getting that appointment booked. Like now it's almost 100% automated, right? And so we can scale our lead gen up and book a lot of appointments very, very quickly. Because and again, guys, how do you get better at selling things? You have more conversations and you try more. You have more at bats, right? You put in more reps. So just book more and more sales calls. And if you have sales appointments being booked over and over and over again on an automated fashion, you won't have any choice but to get better. Like you can't help but get better when you have conversations over and over and over again with business owners in whatever selected industry. You will figure out very quickly how to pitch the services. And like I said, it's not even a hard pitch, guys. It's a very simple conversation where I just tell them right up front, look, I'm not going to hard close you. I'm going to show you some problems that we identified. Then I show them how it's hurting. Then that's the agitate. And then I'm going to present some solutions. And I tell them right up front, our solutions are very, very low cost foundational elements that all tree contractors should have. A good website, Google Business Profile that's optimized and is having consistent and regular activity, and reviews, a good number of reviews, and constantly getting and responding to new reviews. That's the foundational elements that you should have in place, and they should be done well. And then on top of that, we can layer on performance-based or results-based marketing services, but you should have the foundation in place first. And I tell the contractor that right on the damn call. And again, like I said, even with the call that I had yesterday, I even told the contractor specifically, I said, listen, my goal here is to sell you some things, some of our services that I know will help your business that have very, very low cost, so that it's easy for you to say yes. And then as we establish more of a relationship, then I can provide some additional services that are going to help your business to grow. And that's not necessarily marketing services. It's other things that I can help you do within your organization to help your company grow. Right. And that's the conversation I had. And so, again, it's about being transparent. I think local businesses respond well to transparency at the start of a call like that. because if you lay it out up front and tell them like, hey, this is what you can expect. There's not going to be any hard closing tactics at the end of this call. And full transparency, I'm looking to develop a relationship with you so that I can sell you more stuff later. Like, seriously, if you come off that honest about that and that candid with the prospect, it's like a relief to them, right? Because they know where you're coming from. You're not trying to be you know, sneaky or anything else, right? And so again, I think it's just a great way. It's my preferred way to sell. It's the same way that I sell links to SEOs, right? I tell SEO right on the call, look, no hard sales tactics. I'm just going to show you our process. I think you'll like it. It's very data driven. If it makes sense for us to work together, great. If not, hey, maybe you'll learn something today on today's call. It's just a conversation, and that's it. Shall we proceed? Right? Always, shall we proceed? They say yes, and then we move on. So anyway, it was a great question. I'm glad I got a chance, and that was very timely question because again, this just demonstrates kind of the process that we go through. That's only a part of the process of the DHA phase 1 program, guys. That is the contact sequence, right? To get people in, and that's the sequence that we use then that takes us to the booked appointment, which is the start of our sales conversation, right? It's not always going to be closed in the first call, and that's fine, right? The point is to develop a relationship to where they now know that they can contact you at any time and they don't feel under pressure when they contact you, that they're going to be sold to, etc. So, all right, moving on. I hope you guys found that useful. Ron says Google Business Profiles require storefront signage and staff to be present at a location. If a tree business can't afford a dedicated business location, is it better to use a virtual office or a home address? A home address. It's better to use a home address. Virtual offices. Tree guys, tree service companies are one of those companies that it's common. It's normal for them to have their business operated out of a residential address. Okay, so it's common as long as they can confirm and verify via video verification that the business actually operates from that residential address. They should be able to get it approved. Okay, and it's way better than virtual office. Next question. Follow up to the question on using a virtual office or home office. Some suggest hiding addresses on GBP and only showing areas that we provide services for. How does local SEO ranking work for businesses with addresses versus those without? Well, businesses with addresses showing, excuse me, I gotta open this window, it's warm in here. The businesses that do show, God damn it, sorry guys, addresses are going to rank better. Full stop. Even I know Google says their terms of service or acceptable use policy or whatever states that for service area businesses that do not have customers come to the business location, but instead they serve the customers out on the customer's location, you're not supposed to publish the street address. But it's a well-known fact in the SEO industry, the local SEO industry, that a published street address is going to produce better results in map search. There's no question. So just so you know, I tell my tree contractors right up front when I start working with a new tree contractor, if they have an unpublished street address, I tell them I'm going to recommend that you publish your street address. And I ask them first, is your business address that you originally registered still the same? That you originally registered the GDP to? And is it still the same? If they say yes, then I say, okay, is this your home or is this actually where you operate the business out of? And if they say yes, then I say, then what I recommend is that we publish your street address, but you have to be aware that it's likely, it's possible that it will trigger re-verification, which is going to force us to go through a video verification process. But as long as it's a real valid business location that you're running from that address, it should be fine. Or it can trigger a suspension. But again, as long as it's a real valid business address, we should be able to get it reinstated. There is a level of risk to publishing the street address, but the benefit, I think, outweighs the risk, because if we get it published, and even if we have to go through the re-verification process or whatever, now it's going to perform so much better, which is going to generate a hell of a lot more business. So I do recommend that to all my tree guys, but I make sure that they're very, very aware of the potential risks. And then I put it's entirely up to them. I tell them, look, you have to make the decision. This is your business. You have to understand the risks. It is rolling the dice. But it's as long as you have a real valid business location, the chance of us getting it re-verified or reinstated if it gets suspended is very high. So I would encourage you to go ahead and take the risk. And it's up to them to make that choice. Remember, if the tree contractor doesn't already have a good, strong presence that they're generating a lot of leads from, then it's not going to hurt them much if it triggers re-verification. Does that make sense? Or suspension for that matter, as long as it's a real valid business location. But if they tell me that it's not at the same address that it used to be, or that they, if there's any indication that they're not going to be able to re-verify it if needed, then I tell them, let's leave it as a service area business with an unpublished street address. And I tell them, it's like we're fighting with one arm tied behind our back. We can still get results, but it is going to be harder. It probably won't perform as well as it could if it had a published street address. Hopefully that's clear. Moving on. Let's see. Say if two different businesses are next to each other, one with a dedicated office address and the other hides a real address, which one ranks better? The one with the published address, almost every time. Okay, next one. After making a donation to charity, what process to get it published on news websites for SEO? Press release, I guess. I mean, usually if you're going to make a donation to a charity, I would reach out to the charity that you're making a donation to and ask them to link back to your site, right, with a mention of the brand that made the donation. You could also then, you could have a press release published about it too, if that makes sense. But I would definitely try to get a link back from the charity that you donated to as well. All right, who's Ipa? He's got a bunch of questions here. Let's try to roll through them. I have a question about LLGs linked with DHA, or LLGs are in low position, as LLGs are in low population, and hence low competition areas. I would imagine they bring in very few leads, if any at all. Then why would somebody pay rent for them, even if it is $100? Well, that's not always the case. Low population areas doesn't mean it's going to be low leads. Okay, that's not necessarily true at all. And I know that because I built GBPs and lead gen assets in very low competition areas that produce money, revenue consistently, right? But that's also part of the reason why I said you can either rent the site out, you could sell it, monetize it via pay per lead. So if you don't want to charge $99 a month, charge per lead, or do revenue share model, which is only kind of more of an advanced lead gen type of thing, or use it as a sales tool as iPhone. So I've been talking about that for months, guys. You don't have to monetize those sites directly. You can use it as a sales tool instead, and you monetize it indirectly that way, right? Which is, again, if you can point to a site that you've built, that you own, that is outranking the contact that you're speaking with, that you're pitching your services to, it's outranking them for their own products and services in their own areas. It doesn't have to be entirely for all of their products and services in all the areas that they want to cover. All you have to do is show that you can get results for their industry in their own local area. And then you can point to that site during that sales conversation, right? You can use that as a marketing tool, a sales tool, to show them that you can get results. And then say, look, if you hire me to do marketing and lead generation for your business, then I will assign this site to you and you only, as long as you're a client. You see? So you're monetizing that site. Doesn't matter how many leads it generates at that point, right? It's a sales tool that you can point to. Guys, part of the reason I tell people to go out and build LLG, local lead generation sites, is because most of the people that come into our mastermind, Semantic Mastery Mastermind, they have no confidence in their abilities to deliver consistent results for clients. And if you don't have any confidence in your abilities, it makes it very difficult to sell. And now I understand why a lot of our members don't book a lot of sales calls, because they don't have any confidence in their ability to produce results. And that makes it very difficult to sell, because lack of confidence in what you're selling comes through in everything: your speech, your mannerisms, your tonality, everything. Prospects can smell lack of confidence through the damn phone or the Zoom call. No kidding. It's like a dog smells fear, right? Like, I'm not kidding. And so part of the reason I tell people to build local lead generation assets is LLG sites in low competition areas and target them first, is so that they can have something to point to that boosts their confidence on those sales calls, those sales conversations. That's because now they can point to, I've already got results that are outperforming what your business is, or your website is currently doing. And so it just makes them more confident in their own abilities to produce results, which makes the sale easier. Does that make sense? So hopefully that answers your question, Huzaifa. Do you recommend getting a partial match domain for LLGs or the directory for DHA? Yes. And that's covered in all the training. You should have a very short and succinct brandable domain that has some sort of entity variant for one of the primary entities in your industry. In my case, Tree Care HQ, Tree Care HQ for headquarters. That's the directory. And that's also my agency brand name. But then my local lead generation brand is Felling Pro, which Felling is an entity for tree removal as it relates to deforestation, but it still means tree removal. Okay. And so Felling.pro means tree removal pro. So it's an entity variant that is related to one of the products or services in the industry that I work in, both my directory agency and the LLG brand. Both of them are under that same format, and I teach that as part of the program. If we grab for LLGs, if we go the subfolder route instead of a subdomain, we don't need to have a separate county specific brand for each county or city, right? Yes, and it's the same brand. It's just a modifier. Like my brand is Felling Pro. I've got a DBA for that. So I have a doing business as a fictitious name registered with the State Corporation Commission in the state of Virginia that allows me to use Felling Pro as a marketing name, right? And so all that my LLG sites are whatever I prepend a location modifier to Felling Pro, either a county, a region, a city, whatever. It's going to be a prepended location modifier to the Felling Pro brand, if that's clear. But no, you don't need a different brand for each. We only need to build service pages once and then link to them from all locations. Would this be viable site build? Yeah, I'm telling you, you can do that. I'm just, again, if you do it that way, it's likely not going to perform as well. There's a reason why I build separate sites on subdomains, Wjhat. Look, I'm just telling you, the guys in Wjhat, I've told everybody in our program, you can deviate from what I teach. I encourage people to test and try to develop their own flavor. Just understand that what I'm teaching is because it's been tested and tried and true. So you can try other methods. I encourage you to do so, but we have a paint by numbers system that will produce results. If you deviate from that, you're in unknown territory. Okay, so if it lowers your results, it lowers the speed with which you're able to get LLG sites ranked and things like that, well, that's on you. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just letting you know. Again, we have a system that if you just follow the system, you will have results. When you try to outsmart the system, right? Look, I'm guilty of this too. I've gone through many courses and programs, and I always feel like I can find ways to make it better. And by the way, that's how I developed a lot of my own methods, right? Was by doing that kind of stuff. And that's fine. But remember, I think that's kind of something that you should do when you've already got your revenue needs met. Then you go in and start tinkering and playing and things like that. But initially, if you're trying to get your revenue goals met, your cash flow needs met, stick to a system, follow the system that is already proven so that you can get to the money quicker. And then you can go in and start deviating and testing and experimenting, et cetera, on your own afterwards. And I'm not trying to discourage you, Wjhat, from doing it. That's fine. I'm just telling you, I can tell I've tested it very similar, not with subfolders, all on one domain. It was all part of one site, but I did everything through silos instead of subfolders. And it does not perform nearly as well as the hyperlocal sites do that I publish on subdomains. Okay. So anyways, feel free to test. Just understand it's, a lot of those are hypothetical questions. Some of those I know the answer to. Will it work? Yes. It's going to take longer to get results though. So plus you're also in danger. If you catch a penalty on that root domain, you've lost every one of your sites, every one of them. And that's true for subdomains too, but it's a lot less likely to catch a penalty on a root domain when all of your monetized sites are on subdomains, right? Why should we build supporting location pages, as these locations will often have very little or to no search volume from our service and probably won't bring in much leads, if any? Yeah, you're probably right, Wjhat. Just give up before you start. You know what I mean? It's probably a good idea. If they're low competition, and they're not going to generate any leads, why bother? And I'm sorry, I'm being an asshole here for sure. Because again, guys, it's about having an asset to point to that you use as a sales tool. You can go sell your services, regular retainer-based services, to companies in whatever industry you've selected, much easier when you have something you can point to that's in their own area that's outperforming them. It doesn't matter whether those areas are low competition or low search volume or whatever. The point is you can show them that it's something familiar to them because it's their products or services in the areas that they're familiar with, that you can point to and say, I've got stuff ranked in your area right now. I can do this for you. And it's a simple process to build these local lead generation sites with a template and identify the low competition areas that you target and in all of the adjacent areas immediately adjacent to that. because it's a simple process to duplicate, why not just do it, right? Or you could, what if the sky is falling, chicken little it all to your, to death if you'd like. Guys, ready, fire, aim, right? Just go out, take action, see, and you're going to make a mess out of things and you'll figure out how to fix it. But I think you make progress a hell of a lot faster that way than, what if this and what if that, and trying to think of all these different things. In my own career, guys, I just go out and I try to learn something good enough to do it crudely. And then I just go do that thing, whatever it is, a bunch, and see how, and start trying to figure out how to tweak it. And oftentimes, like even the sales conversations, jumping into conversations when I know I'm not ready. But that's the quickest way to learn, right? Sink or swim, right? Full immersion. It's like going and learning, how do you learn a foreign language the fastest? Get dropped into a city where that's all they speak. And you have no choice but to learn very quickly. So I like to do that. Ready, fire, aim. Go out and break shit and figure out how to fix it, right? And so I'm just telling you again, Wjhat, if you don't think it's going to work for you, then just don't do it. Because whether you think it's going to work or you don't, you're right, right? It's because that's what's going to happen. And I'm just letting you know again, guys, it's used as a sales tool. When you can point to a project or an asset that you've built that is outranking the client for some of their products and services in some of the areas that they promote those services, then you've got something that you can point to that will help close the sale and show them that you know what you're doing. Okay. But like I said, don't if you don't want to, man. It's up to you. Nobody's forcing anybody to build LLG sites. It's just an option. And it works. In the pest control niche, would you create separate service pages for every insect or termite type that had caused a lot of pages, and how would you approach it? No, I wouldn't do that unless it was necessary. I talk about this in the mastermind all the time. Start with top level entity-based SEO, so category and topic optimization, where on the pest control page, you would have a section, preferably an H2 heading, that would says these are the pests that we treat in whatever area, right? And then you'd have H3s in a table with H3s that would reference each and every one of the bugs, the pests that they treat. Because now that's proper HTML markup, proper use of heading tags and subheadings on the page that is optimized at the category level. Pest control. Pest control includes termite control, rodent control, mosquito control, roach control, every bug you can think of, silverfish, stink bugs, crickets, all of that. Everything falls under pest control, including rodent control, by the way. That falls under the category pest control. And so what I'm saying is if you optimize one page for that and you reference the individual pests that they treat with proper HTML markup or headings and subheadings on that page, then it's likely you don't need any of those additional pages. But after you've launched that campaign, if in a couple of months, it's not ranking well for some of the search queries, you can always then go in and add supporting content in that category. So either as a post or as a child page of the pest control page, you could have something for rodents, crickets, snakes, spiders, whatever. You see what I'm saying? And then now that is content that is nested properly, right? So structured properly as supporting content for the top level topic page or category page, which is pest control. So don't come out of the gate doing more work than is necessary. Minimum viable option, guys. You should be building efficiency into your SEO efforts, right? Why start with building separate pages for all those different bugs when you don't need, or pests, when you likely don't need it at all? So build for the top level pages and see how it performs. Sometimes it makes sense to then go build separate pages for each insect. Okay. We're almost out of time. How do you generate privacy policy terms and conditions for your sites? Do you use a specific tool? No, just go search it on Google, privacy policy examples, things like that. Copy them and then paste them. That's all I do. I'm not kidding. That's all I've done my entire career. I just go and find one that from a white label or whatever they call it, PLR, like a PLR privacy policy, private label rights privacy policy, or something like that. And then you just modify it. And that's it. That's all I do. Okay. All right, moving on, guys. It's 5 o'clock. I've got 4 or 5 more questions. I'm going to try to roll through these quickly. If anybody needs to go. I'm going to stick around for a couple more minutes. If we use a client's address for the NAPW when building out branded entity assets, what happens if they cancel? Do we keep the same address until we close a different client in the same area? No. You don't build out branded entity assets for your brand using your client's information. You don't do that. You build branded assets for the client. You can build branded assets for your brand, your branded assets too, but you're going to use all of your own details, your own data. Do you understand? Like if you're talking about building local lead generation assets under your brand that then you can assign to the client at a later date, no, that should stay under your brand. The local lead generation asset, you're going to build supporting assets for that brand. And you're going to use your client's money to do it, by the way. But it's for your brand, right? So if you don't have a GBP, then you're not going to get regular business directory listings. You can still get unstructured citations that don't, because you, right, you can, but it doesn't have an actual physical location. So you're not going to get business directory listings that require a street address, etc. So but you do build branded assets for the client, but that's going to be branded assets for their brand. So there is no issue. When they cancel, they keep their assets because they built it. But when they cancel services with you, your branded assets retain all the benefit and part of their budget because that is exclusively assigned to them while they are a paying client of yours. So it's not ethical, right? It's not unethical to take a portion of their budget every month to help support building your branded assets up in their area because it's on their behalf as long as they're a client. Does that make sense? So it's not about building branded assets for your branded your LLG brand, if that's what you mean. You can build branded assets, but you're going to use your branded assets information, logo, page URLs, phone numbers, etc. All of that. Okay. How do you decide what content to write and what topics to cover on the service pages for them to be thorough? What is the service? What does it cost? How is it going to be delivered? What can they expect through the process of receiving delivery? Like what other services, related services are part of that overall service? It's just explaining the service very thoroughly to the visitor of the site. That's all it is. Okay. That's it. Think about it, guys, less of a SEO standpoint and more of how do you convert the visitor? Provide them with a lot of information that can cover every possible question about the product or the service that you're promoting. Then you only have to do it one time on that page, right? You don't have to repeat that shit on the location pages. You just got a link from the location page to that page. So remember, you optimize for Google through the main optimization elements: URL, titles, headings, subheadings, internal links, and media. Those are the main optimization elements that we should be optimizing for SEO. But for human visitors, we should be optimizing the copy, right? To make it compelling for conversion rate optimization, right? To optimize for conversions is essentially. So very thoroughly answer what this product or service does, what it costs, what can be expected when receiving the delivery of it, what's the timeline, all of the frequently asked questions, etc. Okay. Fox says, but love the Hangouts and insight on how you would go about optimizing a location-based business, not a service area-based with multiple GBPs. The exact same way. Storefront businesses can still be treated as service area businesses. And so I still recommend building the same type of site structure and everything, which is adding location pages and supporting location pages to a site that for a storefront business. And so even if there's multiple locations, you just treat each location differently. Now, if they're all locations in the same city, then it's a little bit more challenging because then you can really only do kind of like supporting location pages at the neighborhood level. So it's a little bit more challenging, but since we're out of time today, I can't really cover that very thoroughly, Fox. So if you want to post that question again, then maybe perhaps next week I can spend a little bit more time kind of giving some examples of how I would structure that. Jim says, Bradley, once you have a list of active emails from your directory people who have responded, how do you typically nurture them? Well, no, we reach out to the list that we scrape. We put them into the cold email sequence for the directory process. We don't create directory listings. We just start sending emails to contacts that we've scraped in the areas that we're targeting. And then when they reply, that's when they go into the whole sequence, which, yes, there's nurture sequence. There's the initial sequence to get to the booked call, which is the listing delivery call, basically. But that's really the start of the sales call, the sales conversation, excuse me. But that's it. And then there's yeah, of course, you can have all kinds of nurture sequences in there. You can have sequences that promote local lead gen sites, Google Business SEO, review, more kind of results-based services, whatever you want. Once they're in your CRM, now you've got direct access to them, right? Via SMS, email, phone, anything. Okay. Last question. O'Meal says, what other information can you use in Google Trends towards your website, like top and rising? And how do you feel about when you see something with 1,600 monthly searches, but it shows 0 in another software? How would you approach that? Well, Trends is not about search volume. Trends is about search interest. So they're different tools, just to be clear. But search volume is not an accurate number. Never is. It's just an indication. Also, because of all the CTR manipulation that's going on, these numbers are often way overinflated anyways, especially for search queries that are, involved in local SEO type search queries. They're manipulated all the time by CTR bots. So a lot of those are inaccurate numbers anyway. So it's just an indication. Look, I look at it this way. I've built local lead gen assets in very low competition areas that show no search volume whatsoever, and they've produced revenue consistently year over year. So I don't really pay much attention to it. I just use that search volume data and search interest data from Google Trends as an indication of areas that tend to have more search interest and or more search volume. And there's a difference between search interest and search volume, right? You can have an area that has less overall search volume, but higher search interest based on, the size of the population and how often that query is searched. It could be a higher percentage than a higher populated area that has actually a higher search volume, but lower, so a higher absolute search volume, but lower search interest because less percentage of the population in that larger area is actually searching for those queries. And so I like to target high interest search areas, even though they might have very low search volume, because that means it's likely that we're going to generate leads from an area that is very easy to rank in because there's very little competition, because most SEOs are focusing on search volume instead of search interest, if that makes sense. Okay. What else can you use in Google Trends towards your websites? You can identify top ranked competitors, and then you can go poach traffic from them. In the tree service industry, most tree contractors use tree service or tree care in their name. So very quickly, I just demonstrate this, guys. I know got to go. But if I just go into trends real quick and I look up tree service, I'll just show you. If we come in here and I put for the past 12 months, let's just use that as an example. Then I'm going to click in and go to, let's just say Kentucky. Okay. Because I've got the Louisville Felling project that I show often there. And we'll scroll down here and take a look at this. This shows right here the company names that are doing the most advertising and marketing in their areas. Because in the last 12 months, these companies have been sought out by name. And when it shows a breakout, that means it's over, I think, 2,500% search interest over the past 12 months. It had seen an increase in search interest by 2,500% or greater, I believe, is breakout. And so this is just a great way to identify the top ranked competitors that are doing offline marketing and advertising that then you can go optimize for their brand name and typically outrank them. Or in some cases, you can poach traffic from them. So that's another great way to find things that you can use with trends to identify other opportunities for marketing and lead generation for your clients. Okay. All right, guys. That was way longer than I expected it to be. So I'm going to wrap up. Do we have any questions that I need to answer? I didn't expect you to still be here, Adam.
No, I got totally distracted. It just turned into like a whiteout outside. I got a blizzard warning on my phone and was like, looked outside like, well, what do you know? I can't see the other side of the street. So looking over at the questions, there was something about DHA. I responded to TransCanada, so you can find out more about that. And then I'm not sure if you covered this one. Alex was asking about tips on managing getting paid on the performance basis.
Okay, I see that one. Do you have any tips on managing getting paid on a performance basis? How do you know the contractor sent the invoice, collecting, etc.? I'm not. I think, Alex, what you're saying is, so the revenue share model, I think that's what you're asking about. Like, how do you get? Well, first of all, it's important to establish a good trusting relationship with that contractor. Yeah, but you can trust, but you still need to verify. And so what I've done in the past, and I usually only offer it now because I make all of my tree contractors that are on any lead gen engagement with me, all those leads come through I set up a high level sub account for that contractor. And all leads that get sent to that contractor go through the high level account. And so there's a record of every single lead. And then, like I said, I only offer revenue share with contractors that I've developed a trusting relationship with, but then it's still important to verify. And so in the past, what I've done was I used a call center, so an outbound call center, like a telemarketing firm, to do what they were called as customer satisfaction surveys or consumer satisfaction surveys or whatever, where they would call the leads that I had received from one of my lead gen assets for like, and we would do this every other month or something, every quarter or something like that, where we would take the list of the leads that came in from one of my lead gen assets, and then telemarketing firm would call the contacts and say, "Hey, this is Genesis Tree Service customer survey satisfaction survey. We're calling to find out you requested a free quote for tree services, 6 weeks ago or whatever the date was, and you never ended up hiring us for the job, and we're just following up with the contacts that we didn't close to find out if what was the reason. Was it pricing or blah blah blah?" So it was just a script that I gave the telemarketing firm that then they would call and ask, and it was under the guise of a consumer satisfaction survey so that we could improve our processes. But what it really was me verifying whether or not the contractor closed, because if they closed jobs and they lied to me about it and said they didn't close the job, then the consumer that was answering the survey would say, "But wait a minute, what company did you say you're with?" "Yeah, we did hire them. They came out and removed the tree, and they did a good job," and blah blah blah. And then that's when I would call the contractor and say, "Hey, listen, by the way, this job, do you remember this job on this or this contact, this estimate, blah blah blah? Did you end up getting that job?" I'd give them the chance to be honest before I'd call them out. And if they would lie to me on that call when I would address it with them, then I would tell them, because I would have the recording and the details from the telemarketing firm, and I'd say, "You son of a bitch, you were stealing from me, you're fired." Which I always thought was the dumbest thing in the world, because that's like killing the goose that lays the golden egg. Why would you steal from a lead generation agreement or service that you're only paying for leads that you made money on? See what I'm saying? When you sell pay per lead, guys, you're selling the call whether they close it or not. When you do a revenue share model, you're selling revenue, right? Because you're basically only getting paid for that lead if they've closed the sale and they make money. You don't make money if they don't make money. So it really makes no sense for somebody to do that. But I've had a lot of tree guys that have cheated me over the years, and so now we can do that through high level, through automation, right? Through high level, I can send out customer satisfaction surveys through high level via SMS and or email. And I can even do it through AI voice calls, because I'm the app that I'm using, AI Answer. We haven't built that into ours yet, but that's something that could be done. We could even have AI Answer, an AI voice agent call and ask those questions. And so, yeah, you want to verify that and confirm that if you're doing revenue share model, if that was what you were asking, Alex. Okay. Amizi says, if a potential client already has a GMB, how do you go about getting a new address, or do you reuse the same ADDI? No, we use the same address, Amizi. Like, if it's their business, we're just going to promote their business. When I talk about doing like local lead gen assets, that's under one of a brand that you would own and control that would not have a GBP. So when you start to work with a customer, if they don't have a website yet, what I recommend is you sell them a website too, right? So that you build a website for their brand, and you keep your LLG branded website too, which is going to also be in their area, and you're going to use their budget to rank both sites, theirs and yours, if that makes sense. But you're going to use their GBP for their website. Okay. SEO Fox said, I would say keep the NAP consistent. That's just my 10. Okay, sweet. We'll do. Okay, guys, we're done. Appreciate you guys. We went a little bit over. Thanks for everybody for sticking around. Guys, DHA closes in 3 days. So if you're interested, jump on it.